Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to our first episode of 2025. I missed everybody and I am glad that you're here. If you are rewatching this, please don't forget to make a comment. If this is your first time in our channel, welcome. And if you are returning, I am so glad to have you here. I missed you all. We're going to have a lot of trials this year. There's a lot to cover and we're going to be busy. Thank you for your support as always and for continuing to reach out, even though we had a big break. So, today I have for you a very special show. I've been very curious into the Menendez trial, and I went back in time and I watched the whole thing and I clipped several clips to show you guys a little bit of the judge's conduct at the time, the prosecution, their attitude regarding the claims that the brothers made in the witness stand, and also how the defense was treated. So you guys know I like to unmask and point out, some of these behaviors, because when we watch a trial, like overall, sometimes we don't catch. And for example, when we were watching Karen Reed, we couldn't really pick up, like we could pick up an overall attitude from Judge Bev, but once you see like clip after clip after clip, you're like, wow, this is not cool at all. And if it was today, I don't know if this trial would have been the same as it was back in the 80s. The judge has a position of power. And because of that position of power and respect, he ends up being in a position of influencing the jury. I apologize. And you guys know that is a big no-no, right? We're supposed to be doing everything above board, like we saw on the Alec Murdaugh trial, where the lady is like talking to the jury and saying, yeah, he's guilty, he's faking. And that is not supposed to be how things are. And this judge in the Menendez trial, several times he is making comments about the defense witnesses. He is belittling the defense attorneys. Anyways, I'm not going to tell you guys anymore. I'm going to show you several clips tonight. Hopefully, we can make an opinion on our own. You guys can tell me what you think. I'll tell you what I think. And I'm going to start with this one, where the judge is going to talk to the attorney representing Eric Menendez. Her name is Leslie Abrams. So let's get started to get to know this judge a little bit more.
All right, the jurors have left the courtroom. Just a few remarks before we deal with the exhibit. Remark has to do with the conduct of counsel during the questioning of the witness, specifically that of Miss Abramson, and mugging to the audience during the testimony of the witness. Was there some reason for that?
I don't agree that I did.
What were you doing when you looked towards the audience, smiled, and got a reaction from a lady in the audience?
I was looking at a family member.
And her reaction to you was what?
She was smiling at me when I turned around. She was still smiling.
And you're saying you weren't smiling or mugging at her, rolling your eyes, or anything of that nature?
I was smiling at her. She's the defendant's aunt.
Why were you smiling at her during the witness's testimony?
Because I know what they think of what the witness is saying, and I was offering support.
And if the prosecution would do the same during your client's testimony, how would you react to that?
As long as it wasn't in front of the jury, it wouldn't matter to me.
Well, counsel, the jury is right behind you and to your left. You don't think they can look back and see you? I can see your eyes rolling when you're facing the witness.
The jury can't see that either.
There's a jury in the jury box who could easily see what you're doing.
All right. I will try.
Is there some, no, not try, you will succeed in not mugging for the jury, not making faces to the audience. You will behave professionally. Is that clear?
Yes, of course.
Wow.
Right, and if it happens again, I'm not going to deal with it in this fashion.
Okay, Dad.
And the lady in the audience, what is your name?
My name's
Yes.
Marta.
Wow.
Marta
He's being rude
Menendez.
he's being rude to everybody real quick. And also, he's talking to the attorney like she is his daughter and he's an abusive father. Just like, this trial, sir, is about a father who was abusive to his kids. And here you are talking to the female attorney like she's your daughter. You will succeed. You will do this. You will do that. And raising his voice. And because he's the judge, guess what? He gets away with it. And now he's going to direct himself to the aunt of the brothers who is in the audience, and look at how rude he is as well.
Okay. I don't recall, don't know who you were looking at, but she reacted as well as the young lady in front. I don't know who she is.
I wasn't looking at her.
All right, ma'am, if you want to remain in this courtroom during these proceedings, you are not to react at all to what goes on during these proceedings. Do you understand that?
No.
And if you can't follow that simple instruction, you will not be permitted to remain in the courtroom. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
All right, the young lady in front, what is your name?
Summer Lafreniere.
What?
Summer Lafreniere.
What?
And are you related to anybody involved in this case?
Related to one of the attorneys.
Which one?
Jill
It's my
Ransom.
niece.
Okay, again, if you want to be in this courtroom during these proceedings, you're instructed not to react in any way to what goes on. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Right, and that applies to everybody in the audience during the entire process of this trial.
Okay.
Your Honor, I don't know if the clerk's aware, Ms. Cano is going to be a witness for the defense. We have allowed her to stay because in fact she's a family member. And we have not made a motion to exclude, even though we're aware of her presence and aware.
Oh,
of
and then the
fact that she's on the
prosecutor, he
witness list.
treats with
But We
respect.
can't monitor, we can't conduct the trial by looking in the audience the whole time. So perhaps at this time it would be prudent to have her excluded until she testifies. I believe it will be this week. I think she's going to be testifying within the first few witnesses.
Is that correct? Is she going to be a witness call this week?
All right. So he mentions there, right, to the defense attorney, what if the prosecutor was rolling her eyes and making faces? And sir, I'm going to show you the prosecutor did that. Very disrespectful when she was crossing a psychologist. She is extremely condescending and nobody says anything.
Instances where a child would be acting in self-defense, do you personally
Look
believe
at her
that
face
childhood
when he
maltreatment should
starts to
excuse criminal
respond.
conduct?
She looks at the jury
Well,
like,
my point of view would be that it can explain the criminal conduct, or at least it
did
can
you
make
guys
a
see
major.
that? Okay, so that's just one little part. There's going to be more, but she asks the professional, the expert in psychology, a question. Then instead of looking at him while he's responding, she looks at the jury, goes like, rolls her eyes, does all kinds of things, very disrespectful. And when Leslie did that, the judge, you guys
Use
just watch that.
excuses adult conduct.
Watch her
It
face.
explains adult conduct in many ways. It certainly would be a major contributor to adult conduct in many ways.
Do you think the childhood abuse should excuse legally criminal behavior?
That would be a decision I think a jury would have to make in determining
Right.
whether that contribution of that child abuse was such that it would create the likelihood of a particular act which would be understandable.
Well, in terms of your own personal motivations, your own personal beliefs, do you think that every human being who testifies in a court
His personal belief is irrelevant, and I call her Mrs. Irrelevant because all her objections are irrelevant. That's what she says. So people are talking mid-sentence, and she's like, "It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. This is irrelevant." So now I want to go back to this next part
He
where she's
put food under his pillow so that he'd be sure
answering
to
again. He's answering again, and she's gonna do a little bit of the rolling the eyes again.
this defendant nor his brother were denied the basic essentials such as food and shelter and things
basic
like that.
essentials for physiological survival.
And in fact, in your tenure doing child abuse cases, haven't you seen children who were not even provided with food, even though there was food available?
Certainly, there are children who have been abused who are not supplied with
See that?
food. I guess I am now remembering that
She rolls her eyes, looks down, and starts looking at her paper, completely dismissing the expert who's testifying. So she's extremely disrespectful. But okay, that's just one little part, right? We saw how the judge talked to Leslie Abrams, the defense attorney, and we saw the prosecutor doing the same exact thing, rolling her eyes, or even worse, because we didn't see what Leslie did. So now we're going to see some objections. We're going to see some of the judge's interruptions with the defense witnesses. Let's start with this one being one good example of how the judge dealt in this case with objections.
Sustained.
This is
How
the
would you describe
prosecution
her behavior
objecting.
when you saw her?
Defense is questioning here.
Her behavior,
This is a
I'm not sure
school
what you mean.
nurse.
What kind of person was she? What was her
Talking about the
personality like?
mother.
What did you see her do?
So the defense attorney is asking the nurse from the school, how was the mother's behavior? What did she act? Was she a caring mother? How did she deal with the kids? So this is what the nurse from the school is testifying.
Well, she was not a soft and gentle person. She was more I saw her laugh a lot. I also saw her. She was always in a rush.
She appeared to be a strong or a weak person.
Very strong.
She appeared to be a determined or an indecisive person.
Very determined.
Did she appear to be somebody who set out to get her way and got it?
Yes.
That last one calls for a conclusion on priority.
Sustained, the answer is stricken.
Did you see an incident involving her and Sandy Bing?
Yes, I did.
And who is Sandy Bing?
He, at that time, was our head of the upper school. And she was wanting to get Lyle out of class for a week or more to attend a tennis tournament.
Yeah, at this point, there's no question pending.
Okay. And,
Wow, she's so rude.
all right, and what did you see happen next?
Objection irrelevant.
Sustained.
The encounter
three.
that you saw with Sandy Bing, did you hear her express certain views with regard to what was important for Lyle?
It was important for Lyle to
You can
attend.
answer yes or no.
Yes.
So this
And
is
what
the
was it
judge
that she said?
interrupting.
Objection irrelevant.
The judge interrupts the witness. You can answer yes or no, but he's not going to do that when, for example, Dr. Ozio testifies, right, for the prosecution. So this is a defense witness, and now you heard the prosecutor say again, objection relevant.
Sustained.
And
Did she
they're like a little
demonstrate
team.
her?
She being who?
Oh, look at that.
Did Mrs. Menendez?
Again, the judge interrupts the defense attorney. She being who? This whole time they're talking about the mother. That is so rude and demeaning to the defense attorney. The judge is implying to the jury here, in the presence of the jury, that the defense attorney doesn't even know how to ask a question. Like, he's playing like a little tag team between himself and the prosecution, with at least 4, I think it was 5, but at least 4 objections being sustained right now, and him interrupting twice.
Demonstrate what her priorities were with regard to her children based on an encounter you observed with Mr. Bing.
Objection irrelevant.
5 objections sustained.
Did she indicate that it was important for Lyle?
Excuse me, Your Honor. I think this is the
Excuse
same
me.
Question.
Yeah, if it relates to the
6.
same incident, the objection is sustained unless the defendant was present.
6 objections.
Lyle Menendez present at this time when she had this discussion?
Lyle was waiting in my office. He could have overheard. I don't know if he did or not.
Were you in your office also?
I was walking down the hall, like coming into this room, and I overheard the conversation between Mr. Bing and Mrs. Menendez at his secretary's desk, in which, she was saying that
Okay, you've answered the question.
And was this said in a
7
tone of voice
interruptions.
that could be heard for
It
some
could have-
distance around?
it could have been heard in my office. Yes.
And did she say this loudly?
Yes.
And what was it that she said?
Same objection, Your Honor.
8
Objection sustained.
objections.
Did she, when she came to pick up Lyle from your office, did she express in Lyle's presence ever,
She again being,
Mrs. Menendez?
9 interruption
ever
objections.
Did she ever
10?
express her priorities in terms of the importance of Lyle winning?
He was going to be number 1.
And is that something you heard from her more than once?
Yes.
When during the years that you've been at Princeton Day School, particularly the years when your 3 children were attending, were you aware of what schools people were going to as they graduated?
In my daughter's classes, yes,
Okay, and was
specifically.
Lyle in one of your daughter's classes?
Yes, in my youngest daughter.
And when Lyle went to Princeton, graduated from PDS and went to Princeton,
Right.
were there a lot of students from PDS who went to Princeton?
I can't recall that, but I know that
Excuse me, the question's been answered.
objection sustained.
Excuse
In the
me.
year after that, when
12.
Lyle actually started Princeton, how many PDS students went to Princeton after that, if you know?
I really don't know.
Do you remember anything about whether any people went to Princeton for a number of years after that from PDS?
I don't recall the number of students who went there.
Did a lot of students go to Princeton, or was that unusual? If you know.
Well, it's unusual, I would think.
We can strike our answers being speculative, Your Honor.
Sustain the answer, strictly.
13.
When Lyle was in your office, and Mrs. Menendez would come in to pick him up,
Right.
would you describe the relationship between the two of them as a warm relationship?
No.
Do you have some doubt about that, or are you just thinking back?
Well, I'm thinking it was not a harsh one, but it was not a warm one either. It was just sort of, I'm here, let's go.
Okay. And you described earlier that she seemed to laugh a lot.
Yes.
Was there something unusual about her laugh? Was it a warm, caring laugh, or was there something?
Was it like
different
a
about it?
witch laugh?
Objection calls for improper characterization.
Oh,
Sustain.
15.
Was there
crap.
something about her behavior that led you to believe
Sustain.
that competition was important for her and it was
So
reflected in
anyways,
her laugh?
okay,
Irrelevant.
Sustain.
17.
Did you see any behavior
I
on her
guess
that
we're gonna have
indicated
to
to you
watch
that
to
she
the
was
end.
sarcastic?
Wow.
Yes.
Cross-examination.
17. Let's see how she crosses, right?
Mrs. Elmore, in preparation for testifying here today, have you had any meetings with the defense attorneys?
Yes.
How many times would you say you've met with the defense attorneys in this
Irrelevant.
case since the death of Mr. and Mrs. Menendez?
Irrelevant.
I met with one attorney, I don't know, probably 2 years ago. And then
And then when was your next contact with the defense?
Irrelevant.
I think it was Saturday of this week.
Saturday, 2 days ago Saturday?
Right.
And at that time,
Oh.
did you go over your proposed testimony in this case?
Of course.
Briefly, just that.
There's nothing
you
wrong
can
with
just say
that.
yes.
Yes.
You can say yes. That's
I believe you indicated that that Lyle Menendez frequently had a headache or a stomach ache that you
I'm
attended to.
gonna
Is that correct?
pause. I'm
Yes.
gonna pause.
Approximately what
Pause. I was trying to pause. It wasn't pausing. Okay. Anyways, so this was a quick interaction. The defense attorney was questioning the nurse from the school, a witness for the defense, and in a small window of maybe 4 minutes, there were 17 interruptions / objections. Either they were objections that were from the prosecutor and the judge sustained, or it was the judge himself interrupting either the defense attorney or the witness. Absolutely shows how he was completely I don't want to say it because it's kind of like a bad word. He had no balls. He had no balls during this trial. He was just working for the prosecution. Like she was the boss. She was the boss of the judge in this trial. So let's see if this is just one thing that happened in hours and hours of the trial, or if there are any other things. So, for example, this is another clip where the judge made a remark to the defense attorney.
Foundation should be established.
I'd like to sit down because I'm freezing. And it's warmer if you sit down. I learned in this courtroom.
Okay, it's a new physical phenomenon. Hot air does not rise. Okay. That is
It
not
wouldn't
some
matter if
Ellie
it.
Fry test.
It wouldn't matter if it did because I'm too short to ever get to the hot air. You're on.
Oh, that's why it's so warm up here. All right, you may proceed.
You're too kind. Too often.
You're,
Dr. Burgess, do you teach
Look,
the?
he hates her. Okay, you can see on this little interaction they just had shows that he's either starting to lose his patience, or this is, I think, the moment where he just was like, I hate you. First of all, extremely rude, right? What he said, this is why it's so warm up here, because Leslie said, I'm too short, I will never get up there where you guys are. He's like, this is why it's so warm up here. So he's calling her cold in front of everybody. And it wasn't even funny. Like, people were laughing before on the previous joke, but this time it was just rude. Let's watch it again.
Foundation should be established.
I'd like to sit down because I'm freezing. And it's warmer if you sit down. I learned in this courtroom.
Okay, it's a new physical phenomenon. Hot air
That's funny, okay?
does not rise.
Everybody's laughing. Great.
That is
It
not
wouldn't
some
matter if
Ellie
it.
Fry test.
It wouldn't matter if it did because I'm too short to ever get to the hot air. You're on.
Oh, that's why it's so warm up here. All right, you may proceed.
You're too kind.
And the
Too
prosecutor is
often.
laughing.
You're,
Dr. Burgess, do you?
See, he was gonna say, and it's absolutely unprofessional. Just sad because This is the judge presiding on a death penalty case. I believe it was a mosquito. I believe it was a death penalty case, or if it wasn't a death penalty case, it was a life sentence, right? And he is showing complete disdain for the defense attorney. So I don't like it already. That's already a reason for concern. Okay, so let's see. I want to make sure I'm going to the next clip and not the one that we just saw. This is another one where he's going to say in front of everybody that it's a good thing the defense attorney forgot her question.
At the time.
Counsel, do you want to withdraw that question and ask another one?
Yes, I am asking another one. I
Okay,
assumed that
you
the court
want
was
to honor the court's objection and you want to honor the court's ruling, you want to ask another question?
Yes.
Okay, ask
Why
it
are you
again.
yelling at
Another
people,
question.
sir?
Now I've forgotten what it was.
That's probably good. Go on to something else.
It's
Okay, you're gonna have to give me a
disgusting.
minute.
This guy is a narcissist. We're gonna cover him another day because he's just despicable. This is the doctor that leaked the tapes of Eric confessing to him to the murder, which is fine. I mean, I understand Eric confessed to the murders, but he's a despicable human being because he was trying to take advantage. He didn't care that the kids killed their parents. He was like, how are we gonna make money from here? But the judge is completely inappropriate. How can you say this in front of the jury? It's good that you forgot your question. And Leslie, one thing I'll say about her is that she has a little bit of difficulty reading the room when it comes to the judge, okay? The judge has disdain for her. He dislikes her. He shows this many, many times in different ways. He does not like her. She keeps trying to make jokes with him and they never land. Like his face is just like closed for business when it comes to Leslie. And it's unfortunate because she can't see that. Like if it's me, when I notice somebody's just like closed off and I stop because there's no point. He has an issue with her. Now, this is another portion where she asks for a break and he denies it.
He said,
Okay, counsel, now you are arguing again, and if you want to continue any questioning, you'll have to pursue it in a non-argumentative fashion.
I'd like a brief recess, Your Honor, and then I can be more patient.
No, you'll have to proceed right
I'd like
now.
to approach.
You're going to have to ask your question now, counsel, in a non-argumentative fashion.
I'm physically uncomfortable. I'm asking for a brief recess.
All right. How long did you expect the examination to be? You said you had about 3 or 4 questions when you were up at the sidebar.
Yes.
And how long do you expect the examination to be?
How
Have
rude.
5 minutes if they can get answers.
All right. 5 minutes with or without answers, you're going to be finished with this witness. So we'll take a recess, ladies and gentlemen. We'll resume at 15 minutes to the hour, and
The
which
fudge
time we'll
do you
resume
think
for
you
a
are,
brief further
sir?
cross-examination. Then the people have an opportunity for a direct examination, and then we'll complete with this witness.
What a douchebag.
All right.
Go get a Snickers bar or something. This is why I love doing this type of thing. I love YouTube being able to show you guys specific clips because we can unmask people, right? Because overall, when they looked back at the trial, there were complaints that the judge was extremely biased. And people were like, no, he wasn't. So I love the opportunity of bringing you guys these moments that I clipped after watching hours and hours because it shows how disrespectful and biased he was. So there is no need for me to talk, right? It was proved. So if you guys agree with me, or if there are any other moments that you thought the judge was extremely unprofessional, disparate treatment, anything like that, please don't forget to write your opinion in the comment section. So let's go here. I think this is another time that he is going to be some type of way with Leslie.
Confused about whether their family was a successful family or failure,
I don't know if this is the same.
or a
Hopefully
family
not.
to emulate, a sick family. But they seem really confused about that.
Sustained.
Did they say things? Did they continue to talk about the family?
This is the November 2nd session.
Yes, Your Honor.
Both defendants present. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, Your Honor, but I have not
All right.
cross-examined on this.
Well, you could have. Objection is sustained.
Well, may
The
I
court
approach?
sustains the court's own objection as to being asked and answered in an area that was covered prior.
I'd like to make a record.
Okay, you may do that.
May we approach that?
Yes.
President? Thank you.
Wow.
And it's been reported that this will be the last question by Ms. Abramson.
Much to the court's thought. Okay. Dr. Oziel,
Absolutely ridiculous. Very unprofessional. Okay. First of all, he was rude to her, interrupted her while she was questioning. He was like, so this was who? blah, 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 blah. And then after she approaches, he comes back and says a little joke in front of the jury. It's her last question. Like, we can't take her anymore, everybody. Unbelievable that this was allowed. Okay, next.
All right, is this the a question that you want to ask, or you just want to get in the last word? Which is it, Ms. Abramson?
Your Honor, I'm so tired right now that I'd be more than happy
She's
to go
trying
home,
to
but I
be
think I have
nice.
to ask just a couple of questions.
All right, within the scope
I'll
of
be
the
like, sir,
examination
can you
by
please
the
act
prosecution, you have
accordingly?
the opportunity to ask two questions.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Dr. Azil, let's stay with that same topic.
She was very
Eric
aggressive
was
to him.
not
He
telling you,
deserved it.
in what you've related here on page 19, that he killed his father because he nearly disinherited him, was he?
No, I don't believe he was.
He was trying to tell you that his father's threat to disinherit him at some time in the past was an example of his father's extreme erratic behavior.
That is correct.
Now,
Okay. All right. Now, another time where the judge said that Leslie needs to have the last word, and this is a demonstration of how he had so much disdain for her. I think that she should have read the room here. She should have understood who she was dealing with, and that she can't keep, giving him attempts of joking because he's not in for
and
the
has
joke.
this research and these understandings been incorporated in the therapy and treatment of trauma victims?
Yes, it has been.
Has the understanding that there is a physiological cause for the flashbacks altered the way therapy is now being given to, say, post-traumatic stress disorder victims, Vietnam War veterans, traumatized children, that group of trauma victims?
Yes, it definitely has.
And is there extensive now publication and teaching in the new way to treat these people because of the understanding that there is a biological and physical cause to these flashbacks and not just a psychological one?
Yes.
Your Honor, I think that's an adequate foundation, but who am I? If the court...
That's what I say.
I know you
That's
do.
what I
Every
say.
opportunity, but
Okay, yeah,
There you
always get
go.
the last word, but at this point, the prosecution has a right to cross-examine.
exactly.
Okay, then
Look
they
at
will.
his face.
The limbic system is a group of brain regions that primarily are composed of
See?
the hippocampus, the hypothalamus.
This is his demonstration, guys. This is why body language is important, okay? This is his demonstration of disdain. He does not like the defense attorney. He's showing her, and she's trying to be jovial and playing with him, right? She's like, Judge, I think this was enough foundation questions, but who am I? He's like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. And then she's like, wow, yeah, I know you always have something to say. He's like, can you always need the last word? Just rude. I would be uncomfortable if I was there as a part of the jury, because this is not a joke. It's not a real professional conduct issue either. It's just the judge being rude and inappropriate. All right, let's go here to the next one, where the judge is going to tell her, I believe, to go back to the podium, even though the prosecution stayed in the podium all over the place.
Are you aware of the literature on children who kill their parents?
Parasite.
Is there literature on that subject, so-called parasite cases?
Yes, there
Not
is.
parasite. Parasite. Oh, wait.
And is it current within the professional community to which you belong to look at cases involving parasite from the perspective of potential child abuse?
Yes. It's an important factor.
Now, based on what you understand about the effects of abuse on children, is it in your opinion, a rational model to talk about an abused child simply deciding one morning that he's had enough of it and he hates his parents and I think I'll off him?
Objection, improper opinion.
Sustain.
Do you know of any model where an abused child can completely separate himself from his whole history of abuse and make an independent determination that he hates his parents?
Objection, improper opinion.
Sustained. It's also an ambiguous, unintelligible question.
Anything else?
That's enough.
And you don't like it. Okay, I get the
It's
message.
enough to know that you're not going to be able to ask that one.
Well, I figured
Ask
that.
another one.
Wow.
I sort of kind of got that message.
Look at his face.
What evidence did
See,
you?
he had already told her by this point, okay, you always need to have the last word. And he's wrong from the beginning because he's rude in front of the jury, saying it's also ambiguous, unintelligible question. So she tries to joke around, I think it would have been even better for her if she would have just been like serious and just looked at him, because he was so inappropriate that everybody else felt it. but she tried to make a joke out of it, and he just closed his face again. You're not going to be able to ask that question. And just was again showing how much disdain he had for her. So here, let me go back a few seconds so that we can watch this interaction again. Oh, this is his face after. But when he told her your question was this and that, hold on. There you go.
Are you aware of the literature on children who kill their parents?
Yes,
Is there literature on that subject, so-called parasite cases?
yes, there is.
And is it current within the professional community to which you belong to look at cases involving parasite from the perspective of potential child abuse?
Yes. It's an important factor.
Now, based on what you understand about the effects of abuse on children, is it in your opinion, a rational model to talk about an abused child simply deciding one morning that he's had enough of it and he hates his parents and I think I'll off him?
Objection, improper opinion.
Sustain.
Do you know of any model where an abused child can completely separate himself from his whole history of abuse and make an independent determination that he hates his parents?
Objection, improper opinion.
Sustained. It's also an ambiguous, unintelligible question.
Anything else?
That's enough.
And you don't like it. Okay, I get the
It's
message.
enough to know that you're not going to be able to answer that one.
Well, I figured
Ask
that.
another one.
Okay, ask another one and then look at
I
his
sort of
face.
kind of got that message.
Because she had to make a comment afterwards. Okay, here is him asking her to go back to the podium.
You either wrote or co-wrote or edited.
If you could go back to the podium, it would help so we could hear your voice.
I wanted to turn away.
Okay,
Does it have a list of
I believe
publications
this
that you
is him
either wrote
going
or
back,
co-wrote?
asking again
Yes,
her
it
to
does.
go back to the podium.
There's a need to be up there at the
Well, I wanted to
bench,
specific.
or at the witness stand. Why don't you go back to the podium?
May I ask a question for clarification?
Well,
of
he
the
could
witness?
see that there, so you could go back.
That's a Xerox copy.
Okay,
It's not
and
Dr.
look
Xerox.
at
It is?
prosecution now.
And part of
His processing was okay.
No, that mistakes the testimony. She said hearing acuity is okay.
Okay,
His hearing acuity, I believe, was adjudged accurate. And I know that there was
Why don't you go back to the podium?
some actual degrading that went on of the child by his mother subsequent to that testing, in that she would say to Eric, "I know you can hear all right. What's wrong with you?"
The only question I just asked you was, were you aware of this report, right?
Objection, argumentative.
Rephrase the question.
Ma'am, I just asked you if you
Ma'am,
were
I
aware.
object to the counsel referring to Dr. Tyler as ma'am as disrespectful.
All right, just objection overruled. You may ask your next question.
I just asked you if you were aware of that report.
I'm aware of that report.
Right. Now, you're not an advocate, is that correct?
An advocate?
An advocate for one side or the other.
Why
That's
are you
correct.
here? Why are you next to the witness? Get the hell away from me, lady. You crazy psychopath. Get away from me.
I'd like to ask you, have you looked
Get
at
out.
the medical reports here, which come under the heading of Dr. Jane
Ew.
Cheng, Cheng? Did you review her medical reports of Eric Menendez?
Ew. Get out. And don't touch your tongue and then touch the book and have me touch the book. Okay? Please get away. Personal space. Thank you so very much. Okay, so now we have the judge again. So let me just preface
Is
by
Eric there?
saying, hold on. Preface by saying that during the opening statements, his beautiful girlfriend, the judge's prosecutor, who seems to be like his boss, she opened up and she did say words like Lyle would be effed, right? She used the cursing words. But now this is a defense witness. The judge is going to tell the defense witness, even though the defense witness wants to use the cursing words, he wants to say, no, just minimize it. Let's use some word softeners here so we can make it less than what it is. So this is how that went.
Yes. And the ferret.
And the ferret.
This guy was cool. I liked him. Even
After
though
dinner was
you know,
over, did Mr. Menendez ask you to step away from the table?
it was very nice. This guy.
And did you do so?
Yes.
And did he direct you to some particular location?
Yes, we did walk to another room.
Did everybody else join you?
No.
Who else joined you?
Kitty followed.
And did Mr. Menendez then have a conversation with you, which you later related to Lyle?
Later in April.
Okay. What was that conversation?
Okay.
Did you wish to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may approach. All right.
Thank you. Mr. Klaus, I believe we're at the point where you said that you were directed into a room, went into a room, Mr. Menendez and Mrs. Menendez were there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you sit down?
No, we stood up.
And who did the talking?
Jose did the talking.
Now, can you remember absolutely word for word what was said, or you just remember the general message that was
I
given?
got the gist.
Okay. And are there particular words that stand out in your mind, though, that were
Yes.
used? Okay. Now, with our apologies to the jury, I would like you to repeat now what it was Mr. Menendez said to you.
I can say this. Word for word.
I'm in the same boat as the jury. I don't know what it is you're going to say.
He's concerned about some of the language, Your Honor, so I'd like him to repeat what was said.
Well, if it makes you uncomfortable, then don't.
It doesn't make me feel uncomfortable.
All right, then.
I just don't know these people.
It doesn't make me feel uncomfortable.
Well, just give us a gist without the specific words then.
Without the specific words. So this is the judge influencing the testimony, right? The guy just said, legally, pretty much he's asking, am I allowed to use curse words in court? Yes, you are. The prosecutor did. There are other people going to use it. That's what his concern is. And the judge knows, not stupid. He knows that's what his concern is. But the judge is like, just give us the gist. Don't use the specific words because the words don't look good for the prosecution.
Your Honor, I'd like him to use the specific words.
Give us the gist.
Give us the gist. Again, the defense is like, I want him to use it. No, don't. But
Don't
he's
fuck
gonna
with my
do it.
son's future. Is that fucking perfectly clear?
And did he go into any detail about what that meant in terms of his future, what he was or wasn't to do?
Yes.
And what was that?
Tennis was just, I was babysitting now. As a babysitter for his tennis, he's going to go to Princeton. School starts and that's it.
And so this was a tennis coach. He went to dinner at the Menendez home, and the father called him after dinner into a little room and said, "Don't F with my son's future," and pretty much just like told him he was babysitting the guy. All right, next we have the judge is going to tell the witness this is enough. He's going to cut her off.
Are you aware of the fact that in late November of 1989, that Eric Menendez had a conversation with his friend Craig Signorelli, which was tape recorded by the Beverly Hills Police Department? Are you aware of that?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Okay. And are you aware of the fact that during that conversation, Eric Menendez told his friend Craig Signorelli that there were serious hitmen involved in the death of his parents?
I'm going to object to quoting that tape totally out of context.
Overruled. Your answer?
I heard about that, I believe it was day before yesterday, from Eric himself in this courtroom.
You heard about it because you either witnessed or read the cross-examination by Mr. Kuriyama of Mr. Menendez, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And in that particular conversation, he was in fact diverting attention away from himself as the killer onto others, correct?
Objection, Your Honor, that is argumentative.
Overruled.
Overruled.
Actually, the question doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Would you repeat it?
When Eric Menendez said that serious hitmen were involved in the death of his parents, he was not admitting that he'd done it himself, correct?
That's correct. And as I remember it,
That was my.
Could the witness answer the
Excuse me.
Well,
No,
she had,
She can't.
next question.
Not in
please.
this court.
And in fact, by saying that serious hitmen were involved, he was elaborating on the lie, wasn't he?
he was trying to, as I understand it, Eric described it, he was trying to get Craig's Signorelli away from
the truth.
Well, or wanting to keep pushing him.
Counsel, don't testify, please.
He was trying to keep Craig Signorelli away from the truth.
Objection, argumentative.
Overruled.
Overruled. Anything you say,
Correct.
Leslie, is overruled.
I mean, the truth was he killed his
Whatever
parents,
the
right?
hell she
Yes,
wants.
I'm aware of that.
All right. And when he was talking to Craig Signorelli, he was not only denying involvement, but trying to say that Hitman had done the crime, correct?
Objection, argumentative.
Overruled.
Like five
I don't know.
overruled.
I don't know how you want me to answer this. I'm trying to answer to the best of my ability. I understand that what you're saying. I don't understand what this has to do
Well,
with.
regardless of whether it's a question you think should be asked, just if you understand the question, you should answer it.
Don't
Do you understand my
interrupt
question?
her.
You asked me if I was aware that Eric lied. Yes, I'm aware that Eric lied.
Okay. Well, there are degrees of lying, wouldn't you agree? There's lying to protect yourself, and then there's other kinds of lying.
There's
right?
all kinds of lying.
Right. Okay. And you indicated that you felt that these crimes that he committed in Calabasas did not indicate that he was going to become a con man, correct?
I indicated that based on the history of this child, this boy, this adolescent, that the two burglaries that I knew about were not significant in terms of what was going to happen next. That's correct.
Yeah. So, anyways, we'll go back to the testimony another time to analyze it. But that was interesting because the prosecutor was asking her, so you are aware that they had this that they had committed these robberies. I'm just going to use that word because it's easier for me to pronounce when they were younger. And the doctor's like, sure, but that didn't mean to me, it didn't indicate that they were going to become criminals, bank robbers and stuff in the future. But the way this interaction went was kind of funny because the prosecution was like, oh, so they weren't going to be criminals in the future. And this is like a murder trial. But anyways, I wanted to show you guys how the judge interrupts doctors, he interrupts experts, he interrupts tennis coaches, family members, he interrupts everybody from the defense. He overruled like 5 objections from the defense here, and we showed you how he sustained him and the prosecution earlier today played like a little tag team with 17 interruptions and sustained objections. So this is disparate treatment, right? You treat one side one way and you treat the other side another way. And when you start treating the doctors and the other expert witnesses rudely, it really, really bothers me because it's extremely disrespectful. These people are studying abuse, emotional, like today, for example, we had the, nowadays, we had the Sarah Boone trial. Okay. Sarah Boone, obviously different situation here. But you guys, if you watch the trial with me, we watched doctors, psychologists, everybody talking about the battered person syndrome. That's today we call the battered person syndrome. During this trial in the 80s, they did mention it very briefly at times. They called it still the battered wife syndrome. At that time, it wasn't, people hadn't gone in depth about it. So this is kind of what these brothers are talking about. Like, they were abused for years and years and years, and one day they just exploded. They said no more, and they decided to kill their parents. Now, when the doctors come and testify about their life experiences and how many people they treated with these awful experiences, the judge and the prosecutor just belittles the doctors. And I think that's extremely unprofessional. Just because you're a judge or a prosecutor, it doesn't make you, it doesn't give you the right to belittle a doctor and a psychologist and an expert like that. So let's see here the next
Terribly
one.
maltreated.
And do you think that excuses?
Had you finished your
Okay, this is the one that we did just now, and the witness is pissed. So I think this is another one that the judge is gonna interrupt. Let me see. Another doctor.
It varies widely. I think there's just some bad parents who are mean to their kids all the time, and that's obviously a difficult scenario. I sometimes think that an even worse scenario, though, is where someone is really mean to you on Tuesday and Wednesday and great to you on Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
Because you end up not being able to predict what's going to happen when.
In that case, I'm just going to stop. The judge is going to interrupt this guy. This is the whole point, but I'm just going to say what he's talking about when somebody treats you well 2 days of the week and then the next day they don't treat you well. It creates a cognitive dissonance issue in our minds, and we just can't differentiate. We think this person's so wonderful, but then this person just slapped me, or he called me names, but he treats me so well on Valentine's Day. So you get that cognitive dissonance, and a lot of narcissists love to act like that. So watch out, guys. Watch out for the narcissists out there. So let's go. This is Dr. John Briere, and the judge's going to cut him off.
I think that creates
Okay, you've answered the question. Your next question, please.
Look his face.
You were asked about false memory.
Like, he's not used. When people are not used to people being so rude, it catches you off guard, because it's like the amount of rudeness is not something you're used to. You're like, whoa. This is another doctor, Dr. William Vickery. I believe he is a psychiatrist, highly qualified. And let's see the judge being a douchebag.
Did he, during those first few sessions, give you information about his parents? Any factual or historical information?
Section irrelevant.
Here
You can
she
answer
is.
yes or no.
Irrelevant.
Yes.
And did he give you any information about himself or his school background?
Yes, he did.
And did he give you information about his relationship with his parents?
Yes, he did.
And did he give you information about his feelings about his parents?
Yes.
And did any of this information help you understand what had happened?
Some of it, yes.
Did you feel that you understood it enough to
The
complete an
judge is
evaluation?
the judge like, just like Judge Bev.
No, I did not.
And why not?
Irrelevant. Here's the Miss Irrelevant in the back.
Well, it's a rather open-ended question. Ask something else.
All right. Did you
Ask
feel that
something
there was
else.
information that was being withheld?
Overall, you can answer that yes or no.
Well, I don't think it was a question in my mind about something being withheld. It's just that
you can't answer that yes or no.
He interrupted the doctor in the middle of the answer.
All right. Did
And
you
he
feel
doesn't
that-
know what to do. See, he's like, I'm sorry, I don't know how to act with people being extremely inappropriate, rude, and unprofessional. So he
that
laughs
you were being
nervously.
told everything there was to tell, whether it was being withheld or just not being told?
that was a distinct impression I had, is that the pieces didn't fit together.
Now, at some point, did Eric Menendez start telling you about sexual molestation by his father?
Yes, he did.
And did he?
Okay, I'm going to stop here. This is going to be another part where the judge is going to correct
had not
a witness.
If Mrs. Menendez had not been raised in an abusive home, it would not change your opinion as to whether or not Eric Menendez had been abused. And I'm using abused generically in the three ways, right?
Yes. No, it doesn't change the fact that he was abused.
And it doesn't change your.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. The fact that he was abused is not for you to say.
Right. Okay. Could you repeat
That
your
was the
question?
Oh, wow. Let's back up.
Well, that was also.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. So the jury is the decider of facts, correct? So the jury can determine that they watch the doctor testify, and if they believe the doctor, they do. If they don't want to disregard their whole testimony, they can. It's not up to the judge to interrupt a testimony and say, whoa, that's not, you can't say that, because it just discredits it discredits the witness, and it's just inappropriate again. Let's see where the judge is going to interrupt one more time, because he's busy on this trial, trying everything to make the defense look really bad.
About it because they feel that they're going to be judged harshly, seen as homosexual or seen as inadequate. And it may be that when they do tell people that we
Let's
have.
hold off and get another question here. Maybe it might help.
Okay. And what is the fear
Look
when you
at
do
the
report?
witness.
You were saying.
I'm not sure. After His Honor interrupted me, I didn't.
I interrupted you because you're beyond the question. So ask another question, please.
Okay, you were talking
His
about the
face.
phenomenon of males not reporting. You indicated that
Insufferable
society
pain.
seems to set standards.
He's so unhappy. Like, just give him a Snickers bar or something. I don't know why. Like, what happened here, sir? You're just interrupting the doctor. The doctor's laughing because he's like, I don't know how to react. Anyways, we're going to go to, I believe this is going to be her irrelevance. Mrs. Irrelevance, I believe, is going to start here with the irrelevant objections.
You talked about, you had said earlier that you considered them a very secretive family.
Yes.
And yet there was this discussion about Lyle's girlfriend being a gold digger. You don't know if that was the tennis player or the model.
Yes, I have no idea. I didn't know any by name.
Okay. Now, how do you reconcile that with them being secretive? I mean, she's telling you about worrying about that his girlfriends are gold diggers. Is that what you consider an open kind of person? Or
I think
well, Your Honor, this was in response to Mr. Kuriyama's question.
It's still irrelevant. The question is still.
Is it still your position that they were
Still irrelevant. Next irrelevant.
I think you said for that one too, right?
I'm not following any of the questions you're asking. Could you please restate what you're asking?
You're aware that the Attorney General has filed another complaint against you, correct?
Yes, the second complaint. That's correct.
And my question is, you have an explanation for that one too, correct?
Objection irrelevant. Yeah, let's go.
Objection sustained.
She does
Doctor,
sometimes.
you
So
feel
she
you have an
does.
explanation
She always has the irrelevant objection. When that doesn't go, she just says whatever. Irrelevant. I gotta be on the scope. Hold on. Whisper. My dog's barking, and I gotta go make him stop. This is the defense attorney, Mr. Burt, who is beautiful, by the way. very calm, very soft spoken, but tough, right? He said, do you have an explanation for that too? So here I'm going to play 2 irrelevance. And I'm going to go see what Whisper's
You're
doing.
intervening on his behalf.
I'll be
Is
right
there
back.
any evidence that that ever happened?
I read one report given by a teacher where the teacher had tried to suggest to Mr. Menendez something about Eric's absences from school because of his tennis, I believe it was. But she was making a suggestion that was in Eric's best interests, and she was rebuffed, and she then withdrew and stated that there wasn't anything that she could do.
My question is, though, did you see any evidence whatsoever that anyone actually did intervene to Eric's knowledge? Any teacher?
No, I didn't see that.
Did you see?
I saw attempts, but it was never carried through.
Did you ever see any indication that any teacher ever even went to Eric and said, "Kid, I know you're in a bad situation. I feel sorry for you," or "I empathize"? Anything like that even?
No.
Now, is that kind of an outreach by an adult? Can that help? Is that an intervention that could help a kid in an abusive family? If a teacher or coach says, "Boy, you know, those people are miserable. I side with you." I mean, even that, can that help?
Objection irrelevant.
Sustained.
Can that ameliorate some of the damage of psychological maltreatment if it occurs?
Well,
objection.
Sustained.
Well, do you see
because you don't know any other objection? Irrelevant.
If there was any indication of that, did you see it? Did you see any such efforts made by anybody? You've answered that no. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Are those considered ameliorating events?
Those are considered ameliorating events.
And did you see any evidence of ameliorating events such as intervention by other adults in this family?
I did not. I saw attempts, but no intervention.
Now, is there another?
There you go. More
And
irrelevant.
sufficiently. If you have the report, I'd like to see it.
I will. Why don't you try to remember, and then if you miss anything,
Well,
I'll
I
show you
think one of the
report.
things that was the most striking is the, well, first of all, I was struck with the fact that there wasn't any extensive psychological testing given the, there was one projective test given, and having looked at that one projective test, I was concerned that further tests had not been allowed. But from the tests that were given, it was, it appeared as if Eric had some very significant difficulties in dysgraphia, which is a problem with writing. He had some reading problems.
A problem with the physical act of
with
writing?
the physical act of writing. He had a problem with memory, and it was seen throughout short-term, long-term memory problems.
Was there something, is that what's referred to as dysnomia?
Dysnomia.
And
Memory, problems with memory for names of things.
Names,
Get mixed
places,
up.
dates,
Names,
titles.
places, dates, titles.
And what about dyslexia? Was there a finding of that?
Yes.
And was there a finding of attention deficit disorder with hyperactivity?
Well, that finding was suspected. It needed to be corroborated by reports from teachers and reports from parents.
And nowadays we get all kinds of PTSD, attention disorder, attention deficit disorder diagnosis, and it's just so much more respected. Thank God mental health is looked at in a much different light than back in the day. But back in the day, these parents didn't seem like they were very interested in their kids having any type of issue. And we are going to move on now to another clip, I believe. Let me see if this is it.
Sadly, that she leaves a suicide letter around for her 16-year-old son to find.
Objection irrelevant.
Another irrelevant.
Well, what category did
7
you put
irrelevant.
this act of hers in?
I categorize this as terrorizing.
And why is it terrorizing for her to leave this suicide letter for her child to find?
Well, this was a child who, as we've known throughout his history of his relationship with his mother, had felt very responsible for how his mother felt. Her anger, her rages, she made him responsible for her own tardiness, her own forgetfulness. And he loved his mother. And to pick up a letter like this and be all alone would be terrorizing.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see another one of the irrelevant.
Intimidating.
Did you ever see any evidence that any of the teachers tried to intervene, even those who seemed to realize there was something wrong with the family?
Objection irrelevant.
Sustained.
Would Eric have, based on the material you've seen, would Eric have ever experienced
teacher intervening on his behalf? Is there any evidence that that ever happened?
I read one report given by a teacher where the teacher had tried to suggest to Mr. Menendez something about Eric's absences from school because of his tennis, I believe it was, but she was making a suggestion that was in Eric's best interests, and she was rebuffed, and she then withdrew and stated that there wasn't anything that she could do.
My question is, though, did you see any evidence whatsoever that anyone actually did intervene to Eric's knowledge? Any teacher?
No, I didn't see that.
Did you see?
I saw attempts, but it was never carried through.
Did you ever see any indication that any teacher ever even went to Eric and said, "Kid, I know you're in a bad situation. I feel sorry for you," or "I empathize"? Anything like that even?
No.
Now, is that kind of an outreach?
Okay, now another irrelevant.
Left RCA when?
86.
And he left RCA, did he not, after Elliot Goldman became head of RCA, replacing Bob Summers?
Objection, irrelevant.
Sustained.
And isn't it true that Mr.
It should
Menendez
just
hoped
be
that he would
objection,
replace Bob
irrelevant,
Summers and then
sustained.
proceeded to have a
Objection,
turf war with
irrelevant,
Elliot Goldman?
sustained.
Objection, sustained.
Sustained. You don't
Who
even have
told
to
you
finish.
who Lou Miller was?
Your Honor, I object to this as being irrelevant beyond the filter.
Overruled as to that question.
Jose Menendez was not abusive toward you, correct?
Yes.
However, if things in his work environment changed, would he indicate in some way that he was displeased?
Objection, irrelevant.
Sustained.
You recall making some notes of your characterizations of Jose Menendez?
Yes.
Irrelevant.
Overruled, the answer will stand.
You recall characterizing him
All
as
right, if it relates to the same question you just asked before that I sustained an objection to, the objection is still sustained, even if she made a statement before.
Could I make an offer of proof as to that, Your Honor?
If it's the same thing, then it's still irrelevant. So
Well, it's not the same. The offer of proof is different than the question. Just want to state the relevancy for the court.
All right, why don't you ask something else?
That was my last question.
Okay, then you may approach.
This judge is the worst. I mean, he always does that. He's like, ask something else, ask something else. And the guy's like, that was my last question. He's like, all right, I guess there's nothing else I can do. Let me see if I can. If I can print this real quick. These are some of her faces, right? The judge, one of the things the judge said to Leslie Abrams, the defense attorney, was that she was making faces and that was not allowed. And what would you do if the prosecution would make faces like this? So then these are some faces that I want to show you the prosecution had while the witnesses were testifying. The computer would help. Here you go. And then I have her saying irrelevant. And also, one of the questions she asked this doctor was, if Lyle's life in college was going just fine, how do you claim he was this very abused child, doctor? How ignorant is that question? She's saying that somebody was abused in the childhood, but then if they are in college and they're having a good life in college, it's impossible for them to be abused. And these are her faces, condescending, while she is questioning somebody. So anyways, this is some of the judges, judge being rude, judge interrupting, some of the sustained and objections being irrelevant, and some of our observations so far. So if you like this, there's a lot more clips that I'm going to be creating another video for, and we're going to show you some of the judge, let me see. Judge saying you cannot approach. Judge is telling defense, to state the grounds of objections when he's just objecting on behalf of the prosecution. We're going to watch a little bit of Eric's testimony too, and show Leslie pissed off. So we have a lot more clips. This trial was hours and hours and hours and hours, and I watched it from this YouTube channel called Menendez Trials. Let me share here. See you guys. Menendez Trials, very good. Please subscribe to this channel as well. You can watch the entire trial there. and let me know what your favorite witnesses were. Maybe we'll just cover like that whole witness. We had Dr. Oziel, we had the ex-girlfriend Smith, we had Lyle's ex-girlfriend who was a pain also. We had the friend Donovan. We had another friend that lied on his resume on Princeton. I mean, this trial was fascinating. But what I really wanted to focus on here was to unmask the prosecutor and the judge. Now, let me show you guys before I close for the day what the prosecution said about man cannot be abused. This is the same lady, prosecutor from Menendezbrothers, says man cannot be okay, I think this is it. Let me share this tab. I have Instagram. I don't know my username. All right, I don't know my username. But anyways, oh, here you go. I would like to say, first of all, look at this. I would like to say, first of all, that man cannot be the R word, because they lack the necessary equipment to actually be R.
Rape, since they lack the necessary equipment to actually be raped. And it's the people's position.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Her beliefs and opinions are jaw-dropping. She's really making the case for why the brothers should be released immediately. It's a miscarriage of justice, as I say in my series. Unbelievable. And she, to this day, she maintains the same position, you know, that they should not be released, that they did it for money. She does not take the abuse claim seriously at all. And now we even have another victim coming forward and talking about the Menendez father. So, you know, if this trial was today, I don't know what would have happened. The one thing, okay, so I do believe the brothers, if that's not clear yet, I do believe they definitely suffered abuse in their childhood. We can do a whole body language on their testimony video if you guys want to. Let me know in the comments section. But there is one part of their story that I don't believe, okay? And this is me watching their behavior, their body language, everything. I don't believe that I believe they were kind of acting under the battered syndrome person defense. They were abused. They reached their limit. They exploded and they decided to kill their parents. I don't believe they were afraid that they were going to die that night and it wasn't premeditated. I don't believe any of that part of their testimony because they bought their guns. You know, everything was planned. Even though it was a bad plan, that the prosecution said that it was a bad plan, it was still planned. So that part I don't really believe, okay? But anyways, that's just my opinion. I'm so glad that you guys are here, that we're back. We're back. Bianca MMM, follow me on social media. I'm going to leave you guys all the information for X, Facebook, and Instagram. Apparently, I have to remember my login, but it's so good to be back. I can't tell you. And we have a lot coming out for 2025. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.